Ready, set,
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, here, my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
Garrett Price.
How's it going?
And Jared Wackerly.
What up, what up?
And we're back talking Dynasty rookies. And we were thinking about this. You know, we're like, hey, we're watching all this film. We're breaking down this film. Like, we need to give the listeners and the viewers on the YouTubes an opportunity to watch the film with us. And to get the bonus episodes, right? Like, if you want to hear all our rookie breakdowns, you need the Nerd Herd episodes too, which are the second half. And you're like, oh, you guys are cheaping us out. Well, somebody's got to pay for all this production. So right now, we're like, you know what? Let's bring back a promo code. Let's give our listeners and viewers 15% off. It's only for the podcast listeners, because that way you get all this info.
And YouTube viewers.
And YouTube viewers, too, because, you know, somebody's got to check out Matt's handsomeness.
Sure.
If you use the promo code ROOKIE, you're going to get 15% off any subscription that you want to use.
Prescription.
No prescriptions.
Dr. Rich.
Dr. Dick is not in service today. Sorry. I've been disbarred. Hey, that's the lawyer.
Disbanded?
I'm disbarred too. Can't practice law. So the promo code is ROOKIE, and you're going to get 15% off. Because listen, we got a lot of rookies to talk about over this next month. We're finishing up our running backs now. If you missed the other episodes, check out last week, because that's where all the good running backs were last week. We got a lot to talk about today.
Not true. There's
one of my favorite
good ones.
The first one we're going to talk about is one of my favorite running backs. Love him.
Sure. Running back too.
Promo code ROOKIE. You're right. Running back too.
Yeah. We agree on that part.
In the class.
You're finally there?
Oh, no, I've been there.
Oh, all right.
He's just not that much better than the rest of them.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. And so use that promo code ROOKIE. Save yourself 15%. Subscribe. Get the Dynasty GM. Get all the tools that we offer. Most importantly right now, the Dynasty Nerds Film Room and the extra podcast. You can see we did some interior decorating on the YouTube channel. After years and years, Baker Mayfield is no longer on the wall. It was disheartening, to say the least. So we replaced him with Nicholas Jamal Chubb. If you see that jersey, we have two of them. We're going to give one of those away. So if you want to win a sweet-ass Nick Chubb jersey, just keep listening and follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Nerds, and we'll tell you how. We haven't figured it out yet, but we will figure out a way.
I was like, when did we plan this giveaway?
Nothing. I was like, how are we going to give this away? Crickets. Nobody responded.
Can you be disbarred if you've never been barred? Sorry, I just got...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I've been barred since before I was 21, son. Illegally and fakely. So here we are. But before we get into all these rookies, one more thing we got to promote here is our friends at Prize Picks. That's right, Rich. You're like, Prize Picks? What's that all about? And you're like, dude, it's the most number one app and site you can go to for prop bets. I mean, if you want to make prop bets, this is the place. Prize Picks. You get on there right now, you pick 2 to 5 players, you pick the over, under on their projections, and you can win up 10 times your money. Use the promo code NERDS, and you're going to get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. But not only that, if you use the promo code NERDS and you make a bet on there, any bet at all, but if you make a futures bet, which is right now, I mean, you could go on there, you could bet MMA, baseball, soccer, college basketball, NBA, all that stuff.
You're supposed to have some for the draft coming up too. That'll be exciting.
NFL draft props are going to come up here. But if you make a futures bet, like,
Can't wait for the draft.
will Nick Chubb have over 1,500 yards rushing? Yes or no? And you make one of those future bets, and you either screenshot it and send it to the Dynasty Nerds Twitter DM, or you email Jared, Jared, at Dynasty Nerds.
Hailed it.
A screenshot. We're going to send you the most comfortable t-shirt in the world, the one Matt's wearing right there, and you're going to be looking really sweet. Your high-five intake is going to increase drastically. So we'll send you a shirt, and you're going to get an instant deposit, and you're going to make sweet action, and you get ready for the NFL season. So if you want a sweet shirt, which is worth like $35 by itself, all you got to do is deposit $10 and make a future bet. Boom. Shakalaka. Prize Picks.
Done and done.
Promo code NERDS. Get on there. Futures bets or any bets, but that's what we talk football. So that's it. And now we're time to get into the 2022 rookie class as we close off this class.
Part 2. Or
Part 3.
Part 3.
And
How we divvy it up.
I think all in all, I think this class is underwhelming.
We've been telling you that forever.
I know, it's kind of doo-doo butter.
Doo-doo butter.
Doo-doo butter. I'm gonna tweet out my tiers here. It's funny because I got tier 1, Breece Hall.
Right.
Tier 2, Kenneth Walker.
Okay.
Tier 3, Isaiah Spiller. Then tier 4, like a couple guys, like 4 or 5 guys. Then tier 5, a lot more guys, and then a doo-doo basket, which is like a lot too.
I don't have that Isaiah Spiller in his own tier type of thing going on. I think I've got probably about 4 or 5 in that third tier.
The only thing that broke that tier for me is like I'm trusting some people that I trust.
You're
like
trusting some people that you trust that are the most number one, right?
The most number one.
I mean, that
trusting.
swear by him. You know what I mean? Like, because I could see a path. I could see a path of him being like a solid running back too. So I could see it. Like I could see his path just as clear as like if Zaquandre White was more active in the passing game, like he'd be up there with Isaiah Spiller.
Oh, for sure.
You know, Damian
100%.
Pierce is close, but I just don't see it. Like there's no way, as of right now, before the NFL draft, that I would take anybody above Isaiah Spiller. So to me, that's why he's in his third tier as of right now. Now the NFL draft could change some things.
Sure.
But we'll see.
I see a lot of guys that have 1 or 2 traits I really like. There's not too many that have like the total package.
Brees Hall.
Right. Correct.
I was telling you guys, I think I would take Brees Hall 1-1 last year too. Ahead of Najee, Javonte, and Travis Etienne. That's how much I like him.
Prospect score wise, he did score higher for me than Najee did, but he did score a little bit below Javonte.
Yeah, that dude's he's so good.
Yep.
And anybody
really
tells you
talented.
differently, just disrespect their opinion. So.
Disrespect on you, disrespect on your cow.
Yep. So let's get into it.
Words of
let's
wisdom.
kick off this
It's a
show.
long quote.
We got some long shows. This in the Nerd Herd because we got to get all the rest of these running backs in.
Which is a lot.
It happens sometimes. We do this to ourselves. We don't pace it out correctly. And there's some guys we didn't talk about. Now, if there's a running back you don't hear on one of these 4 episodes, after the NFL draft, if they get drafted, we will cover them.
Yep, absolutely.
When we do our overall rankings. Because that show gets real long too because we do rankings. You see my new tweet, the shirt that Josh sent? He was in North Carolina. Rankin Street.
Oh, yeah.
Rankins.
Yeah. It's my kind of street. Rankin Street.
I like this shirt Jared made too.
Oh, dude.
that was.
I ordered a shirt.
Did you make one?
This is a guy?
Yeah.
This is a guy shirt. That's a good drawing, by the way. It actually did look like me.
It did kind of look like you.
It did look a lot like me. I'm like, did he like...
I traced the picture of you, a screenshot of you.
Oh, is that what it was?
On my iPad,
Oh, I
yeah.
was wondering what I was like, what does that look like?
It does look like you.
I mean, the nose was a little big, but come on, you know?
It was a good like crude cartoon version of Rich.
I can't wait to wear it.
Make my muscles
That's
bigger.
going to be great.
I am great.
Can
I'm
I
going to give it to one of you.
Can I get it? Yeah, can I get one?
Yeah.
Can I get one?
Yeah, just order like 10 of them.
Is it tri-blend?
Maybe.
Oh, can we get it? We can do a giveaway.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. That would be a great giveaway.
Yes.
Somebody just left us a review on the podcast. Says this is a guy.
I know, I saw it.
But
Speaking of reviews on the podcast, go leave us a 5-star review because we love you.
Oh yeah, if you guys enjoy
And you
these
love
shows,
us.
I mean honestly, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Even if you don't like love YouTube, subscribe anyways. And more importantly, go to iTunes, leave us a rating and review. If you want to leave us a 1-star, keep your opinion to yourself. But if you like us
Like
enough
a
to give
4 or
us,
better.
I like how Rich just itched his nose with his middle finger while he was saying that.
Not intentional.
Not intentionally, but that was perfect.
keep it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself.
Yeah, leave us a rating and review. It helps the show, helps spread the word. So what kind of word are we want to spread? How about the word of Kenneth Walker, running back out of Michigan State, 5'9", 211 pounds. Still young enough. He'll be 21 in 10 months when the season kicks off. Ran a 4.38 40 at the 40.
At the 40, at the 40.
At the combine.
40 at the 40.
40 at the 40.
Edward 40 hands. Had a 34-inch vertical, 122-inch broad jump.
I'll meet you at the 9th hole at 9.
There you go.
He had 263 carries for 1,636 yards. That's the most in college football. 18 touchdowns. Played 2 years at Wake Forest in a committee before opting out at the end of 2020 due to COVID. And then he transferred over to Michigan State, where he broke out and was a Heisman finalist, 6th place in the Heisman. And he was a Doak Award winner. You know what that award goes to?
Best running back in the country.
Gary, what award is that?
Best running back in the country.
The second best or the best?
What do you think, Rich? The second best or the best running back in the
I'm
country?
reading here it says Doak Award goes to the best running back.
Oh, so he's better than Brees Hall?
No, but in college
Oh, okay.
football.
I'm just making sure we're clear on that.
I'm being very clear. Call me LASIK. So, pros. Let's talk about his pros. This guy led FBS with 89 forced missed tackles. So, he's going to force you to miss him, right? Like, it's like, hey, he's a heartbreaker. Like, here I am. Now I'm gone. You missed me. Sorry. 89 times. 276 touches in 2021 and only had 1 fumble. So, he's secure. Like, he's not going to drop you. You can give him your baby. And you can feel very, very good about it. Great at getting to the outside edge and good burst. Makes one cut and goes quickly. Can cut on a dime. Contact balance is above average. great visions and patience behind the line. One of my favorite plays I saw him run, I don't think it was a Penn State game. It's like where the pulling guard pulled out to the right side. He just followed him slowly over there and boom, bursted up the sideline, 25-yard run. You see a lot of those. 25-yard runs. Love his feet in tight spaces and good agility. Really good lateral movement. Can push the pile too, which was a pleasant surprise the way he could push the pile. His yards after contact is solid. PFF had him as a number 1 running back in yards after contact. He's also good in pass protection. Now, I know Garrett wants to know, what's the cons, Rich? What are the cons about Kenneth Walker III? Well,
he's my running back too, for clarity.
Calm down, evil significant. He wasn't involved in the passing. I don't know what that second word is. I just made it up.
Okay.
He wasn't involved in the passing game, but he showed he can catch at the combine.
Yeah.
He only had 13 catches, 89 yards, 1 touch. He only had 5% of the target share, so he wasn't really loved there. Sometimes wanted to be a little too heroic, where he'll find that he wants to find that bigger opportunity when he should just take those couple yards that are given to him of the yards that are there. But for me, this guy is a dynasty prospect with running back 1 upside. I love everything about Kenneth Walker's game. I love his vision. I love his speed. That's why when he ran that 40, it's not too shocking with that 4.38, how quickly he was able to get to the outside edge there. And his patience behind the line was so good. It constantly showed where it led to those big yard gains. Honestly, when I watch his game, why I have him in a tier behind Breece Hall by himself is the big thing here is I think Breece Hall is elite. I think he's one of the most elite backs we've seen, honestly, over the 8 years of doing this podcast. I think I put him in that category of the Zeke Elliott's, the Saquon Barkley's, that category. That's where I think of Breece Hall. I think he's that good. So Kenneth Walker being a tier by himself alone, I would put him probably last year right in that mix of right around Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne in that tier there. So
okay.
I think he's that good. I think he's going to get drafted to a really good situation. I think he's going to be drafted as a number 1 running back. So I think he offers a lot of potential here when it comes to fantasy football points. Because remember, when we scout these players, we're not scouting them for NFL teams. We're scouting them on dynasty production. What is their dynasty outlook? And for me, this is running back 1 potential. The key is, can he be involved in the passing game? That's going to be the biggest question for him. But Garrett, you always say, it's the haves and the have-nots, right? So to me, I saw enough at the combine and just enough when he was involved that he can. Just how I was questioning about Jonathan Taylor. Then all of a sudden he leads all rookies in receiving, or all those Wisconsin running backs. And he just wasn't involved in that aspect of the game at Michigan State.
No,
so,
I would agree. It was more of they just didn't use him in that capacity, not that he can't do it. So I agree with that.
So what do you, what is it where, and we'll let Matt be the tiebreaker here afterwards. So I understand you have him as your running back 2.
I do. Him and Spiller are very close, but I do have him as my RB2.
See, and the difference between you and I is you're okay, he's not that much different than other guys that are behind him. When
Correct.
I think it's a clear-cut difference between him and Isaiah Spiller.
Right.
Isaiah Spiller's nice. His vision's nice. His cutting ability there to see the lanes is nice, but I don't envision him moving a pile like Kenneth Walker can move the pile. I don't see his speed as good as Kenneth Walker to the outside edge.
I think right before that was one of the things that we differ on. I don't think his physicality and power is very good at all. I think he's a little bit of an undersized back. He's not going to physically break a lot of tackles. He's going to do it with his elusiveness because he's incredible in that category, but he's not going to run through players. So I actually have him as a slightly, 6 is average. Have him at a 5.5 for power.
So I saw something similar to you. I don't think that's where he wants. I don't think he wants to run through a guy.
Right.
I think he can. I think he's capable of getting low and doing it. But he's a guy that wants to get to the edge. He wants to get around.
Yep.
He wants to get around a defender rather than going through them. And he's good at it. He's good. He can make people miss in the open field, and he can outrun guys to the perimeter. So I don't think he needs to necessarily have a big time power aspect to his game. But if the occasion arises when it's a defensive back, that's the only person he's going to lower his shoulder. He's not going to be doing that to a linebacker or anything like that. But if the occasion arises for him to lower his shoulder on a defensive back to get to the end zone or something like that, he can do it. I mean, he's physical enough at 5'9", 211 pounds to do it, and he certainly can play low enough to the ground, I think, to win that kind of battle.
And he showed that at the goal line when he would get the goal line carries, and he would actually push the pile through the goal line.
So I have him a little bit lower on power. The other thing that I think is overblown in his game, I don't think his vision at the line is nearly as good as everyone's saying. I think he has very good vision at the next level. But great example, Michigan game. Michigan game was kind of like his like poster game where he had the 5 touchdowns and everybody's like going nuts. 2 of those touchdowns were really good touchdowns. The other 3 really weren't anything special. One was a completely broken play where the defense like wasn't even on the field. Half of them were on like the opposite side of the field. One was literally Kenneth Walker ran into the back of his offensive lineman, and it just so happened that nobody caught him back there, and then he kind of bounced it out and scored a touchdown. But I think that's the thing that I saw with him. There were a lot of times where I saw him specifically in some of the zone plays where I think he missed the hole or he would hit it late. And so because he has good patience, I actually have him a very high patience score, but I think sometimes he would almost have a little bit too much patience where I would want him to be a little bit aggressive. He missed those. His patience and his vision didn't time up beautifully like Breece Hall's did. And so that's where I have a little bit of a knock on him was the vision and the power. And then, I have a low grade for pass pro. Everything else is pretty significant. And actually, he has far and away the highest score in elusiveness in the class. I gave him a 9.5 out of 10, which is good. Special.
Yeah, he is very good. And the pass pro was a thing that I just didn't see much of it.
He just wasn't used a lot.
He was hard. It was hard to grade in that aspect. So the passing chops, I guess, as far as how he's going to translate to the NFL, as far as a guy that's on the field on third down, it's going to be a projection because he didn't catch a lot of passes and he didn't pass protect a lot. So it's something, if he didn't do it a lot, was he just not good at it, or was it just not part of their offense? It's hard to tell. So it's going to be a complete guessing game as far as how much value he's going to hold in PPR. So it is going to kind of depend on where he lands and what kind of usage they've had in the past with their running backs to kind of figure out exactly where he lands as far as a PPR value, I think, going forward.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the difference, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, the difference, because we both have him RB2, so there's really technically no difference between us there, but I'm guessing the difference is going to come where I have a few receivers that I would take ahead of him in a 1 QB league. After Breece Hall, I have probably 2 to 3 receivers that I'll take before I would be willing to take Kenneth Walker. Sounds like Kenneth Walker is probably your 1-2.
That's the difference. I have him as 1-2. I would take him there just because I feel more comfortable getting a receiver a little bit later. Anytime I get an opportunity that I see a running back that has the potential to be a running back 1, where I like him enough where I think, okay, this guy has running back 1 potential, then he'd leapfrog some of those receivers for me. Because then I'm just as good. If I take him at 1-2, I'm still in a good chance to either trade up or get a guy like, Jahan Dotson, a guy with upside like Christian Watson there at the end.
Sure.
Obviously, they're not Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Drake London, but those guys comes with somewhat, well, not Garrett Wilson. Those guys come with some question marks as well.
Sure.
So to me, I'd rather get the running back. And again, if he pans out even remotely to like an Antonio Gibson per se, right? Like I can get any receiver I want at that point. Running backs always put you in position to get the proving guy, right? And that return is instant. So like after year 1, even if I have enough running backs and I'm somewhat questionable about these receivers, or I want it for sure thing, if Kenneth Walker pans out, I can flip Kenneth Walker for DJ Moore. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I can flip him for Deontay Johnson. Like I can get the receiver that I want that's still young enough because there's more of them.
Right,
so,
absolutely.
And that's the difference. So, Matt, what do you feel about Kenneth Walker? Do you think he has running back 1 potential? Or is he more like, where do you feel like if he's at in your dynasty, like rookie talk so far? Just give us your breakdown.
No, obviously, I have him as my running back 2 as well. And he is similarly, he's in kind of a tier by himself there. It's Breece Hall, it's him, and then it's kind of 4 or 5 other guys. So I do think he offers he's one of the few guys that offers like this can be a 3-down guy as long as
the third down stuff works out. Which
third down stuff works out. So that's kind of how I view him. I think he's a high upside guy. I think he could be a running back 1 if he's used in any capacity in the PPR game. Because like you said, what we've seen out of him catching passes, I think he can do it. He's fine at pass fail. He passes that anyway. So. It is going to depend on, I think, where he lands and what kind of offense he's in, whether or not he realizes that running back 1 status. But other than that, I mean, I think, you nailed it with all the analysis as far as lateral agility and all that kind of stuff. I talked about the speed of the outside. I think that's kind of how he wants to win. So that is what he is in a nutshell. And 5'11", 211, or 5'9", 211 pounds it's a
very solid weight.
It's
a nicely put together running back. So I think he could definitely hold up to the NFL rigors anyway.
And you have him in clear tier 2 here.
Yep.
I know we haven't got to the receivers yet. Do you feel comfortable with him at 1-2, or are you with Garrett like he's more around that 1-3, 1-4 range?
No, there's probably a couple of wide receivers that'll jump above him.
Okay.
Just because the aspect, as of right now anyway, just because I don't know the PPR aspect until landing spot happens for him.
And let me say this too. Let me backtrack that just a little bit too. It depends on the state of my team as well.
Right.
If I have 1-2 and I'm in full rebuild mode, like my team's depleted, I'm taking the receiver.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like I'm taking
that's fair.
Garrett Wilson, I'm taking Treylon Burks. I will see what happens with Drake London here too. I haven't dove into his tape enough as I wanted to, but I'm taking.
He forgot to say Jameson Williams.
I did.
He has kind of become the forgotten guy of like the big four.
Torn ACL.
Yeah.
It helps.
But could scream some value though.
So I mean, it depends on the state of my team, or unless Kenneth Walker does land in a really good spot where he's the clear number one, then I would take him at 2. Going back to okay, if I'm in full rebuild, now I could flip him for probably a 23 first and a receiver that I want with some upside. Maybe not like a Deontay Johnson, but if he hits in the right team, you could always get more for those running backs, always, because the receivers are going to take a little, unless they jump out like a Justin Jefferson, a Jamar Chase,
Sure.
which those are outliers. It's not a common theme. You can always get more instantaneously for the running back. So if I'm in rebuild mode and I'm looking forward to the 23 class, which we all are, and I want to recoup a draft pick there and relatively a high pick, it's going to be Kenneth Walker gives me the highest upside to do that. So that's where my strategy lies with a guy like Kenneth Walker. Again, if he ends up after a draft and he goes to somewhere that he's not the clear 1-1 and he's going to be splitting time, like he's like a Zach Moss and Devin Singletary kind of situation, and I'm like, oh, well now maybe I am going to like switch courses a little bit here.
Sure.
I'm in a draft where I have 1, 2, and 1, 5. I'm taking Kenneth Walker because now I'm really comfortable getting either Drake London, Jameson Williams, one of those three receivers. Yeah. So, Jared, is there anything we missed here on Kenneth Walker that you want to chime in on?
From a prospect, like how he plays standpoint, I think you guys hit on everything. He's my RB2 as well. He sits in a tier by himself at tier 2, kind of like what Rich said. I think from taking him 1-2 over receivers, I want to wait till the draft comes around, landing spot, and see what happens there. But I think he has a 3-down skill set. In the tape, when you see him catch passes, he looks fluent. And just like you said at the combine, he looks fluent. I think he can do it. It's like a check fail type thing, pass fail. He passes for me. So,
Jared, and this is your opportunity to brag. You're the first person I ever heard talk about Kenneth Walker, like ever.
Yeah.
Back when he was playing at Wake Forest.
I know we've exhausted that a little bit on the podcast. I wasn't going to say anything.
No. This is your opportunity to brag. This gets cut up separate for you two. There's all kinds of extra eyes on this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we were watching the Sage Surratt film, he really popped for me.
Sage Surratt.
Yeah, and we didn't like
People
him.
mocked him as a first round receiver.
I was like, who's this running back that's like way too patient behind the line of scrimmage? But no, he's super patient running back. I actually think his vision's a little better than what you stated there, Garrett.
I like him. I love it at the second level.
I think he's great in the scrum.
I think he processes a little too slow at the line.
See, I disagree with you there, but
That's all right.
Yeah, I like Kenneth Walker. He's just outside of our top 10 in a combined nerd score. He's an RB11, combining 2020, 2021, and 2022. One thing I did want to say is like his intangibles or what they say they are. Like he's an absolute gym rat. Like he is a weight room.
I could see
he's
that.
always in the weight room.
Shows. I mean,
yeah, he's a chiseled dude. So he clearly puts in the work, and he was not a highly recruited guy out of high school. He only had like 2 D1 offers, I think. So he clearly put the work in to get where he is where he's at today, and it shows.
It does show. I mean, the fact that he transferred for a bigger opportunity to go to Michigan State, and then when he does get the opportunity, he shines at the highest level.
Absolutely,
and that says a lot about work ethic and where this guy can go. So that's
absolutely
all encompassing. It's why I'm such a huge fan of his. Pleasantly surprised too, because I went into it just like everybody else, going, okay, it's Isaiah Spiller and Kenneth Walker after Breece Hall, and after watching his tape, I came away literally ecstatic, like about what I saw. So love Kenneth Walker. Let's move on to our next prospect, and that's going to be Rachaad White, running back out of Arizona State. 6 foot, 214 pounds. A little bit older, going to be 23 and 7 months when the season kicks off here. Ran a 4.48 at the combine, 38-inch vertical, 125-inch broad jump.
Good numbers.
Yeah, really good,
really
good numbers. 2021, solid numbers, 182 attempts, 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 43 receptions for 456 yards in 11 games. Career stats, just as good, right? 14, 20 yards, average 6.3 yards per carry, 20 touchdowns, 51 total receptions for 607 yards in his 15 games played. Really good size, really good speed, really good athleticism overall. Like when you watch Rachaad White, like this kid's an athlete. Shows pretty good patience behind the line, lets things develop. Then he's that one cut and go kind of running back.
Yep.
Showed pretty good vision. He found those small creases, and then he hit them. Mm-hmm. Big play potential, obviously with his speed when the space is there, and he's a really smooth runner. When you watch him, like, wow, this guy's a smooth criminal here. Really, very solid jump cuts. Could catch the ball really well, and was lined up in the slot as his numbers show. He lined up the slot about 10% on passing downs, which is good for him. Some of the cons here, he got a lot of help from the line in his team. Right, this is a guy who had 3.3 yards before contact. Quick feet, but a little tight-hipped at times, which makes him a little less elusive than you would like. So he is that one-cut runner and go. His contact balance, when I saw it, wasn't that great. Isn't toughest guy to bring down. So when you see him, a guy for his size, you would expect to have a little bit more oomph to him.
I wrote he's big enough to fall forward, but he's not going to win with power.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's fair.
That's kind of how I describe his power.
First tackler got him often when on the low there. So and I think the problem with that is like he runs a little high.
Yep.
So
He
the
does.
problem is he runs a little high, and that's what causes him to, I think, go down a little bit easier. His pass protection isn't that great. He struggled a lot from what I saw.
did. Yep.
But this is a guy who showed flashes to me and upside and has a chance to be a solid PPR guy at the next level. Like when I watched him, I was like, okay, like there, it came and went for me, right? Like. There's a joke in there.
We're just going to move on.
So every time I'm watching, I'm like, man, this is a guy I really like.
Yep.
And then I'm like,
He doesn't stick.
he's okay. Yeah. He's not those hands you used to get at the 25-cent machine you throw on the wall.
Yep.
And then it stick.
Yep.
Like, this one's like wet.
No, I get it. Was he was a JUCO guy, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Right. So he's a little bit older and he only played obviously.
That's a big fault. He's 23
Right.
7 months.
So, you would kind of expect a guy like that's older than most of the competition to kind of dominate. And it's not like he dominated, but he was definitely one of these guys that could outrun guys. He's I think more physical than most of the guys out there. So he offers a nice skill set. I think this is a guy that checks a couple of boxes. I said it. I said it.
You said it. You did say it.
You got one.
Dang it.
Did you?
I mean, Rich already got like 2 or 3 before
Did
you.
you guys
but-
see the YouTube video? Rambo added a ding.
Did he
Every time
really?
Rich said, "This is a
No.
guy."
We got to add a counter
I
even
gotta,
this time.
I got to watch that.
This is great.
Tell me about this guy.
I lost my train of thought.
He checks the boxes.
He checks.
This is the guy that checks the box.
Tell us about this guy.
He checks some boxes, but he only checks a couple of them. You know what I mean? He's got speed, athleticism. He can. I think his vision is okay, but not great. But he's looking to get to the outside. If he gets to the outside, he gets a crease in the right scheme, an outside zone scheme,
Yeah.
or like that. He could be a nice home run hitter and hashtag 2 to 3 year window because he's already 23. But if you're getting him in the 2nd or 3rd round or something like that, if he falls in the draft, which I don't think he's going to be a super high draft pick or anything like that.
I got him at day 3.
He's 20. Yeah, he's 23 years old. He could end up being a value, and has enough, I think, within his skill sets and within his athleticism that he could be a guy that can produce for you fantasy wise in the right circumstances.
I think it'd be a really good compliment to a guy like Derrick Henry.
Okay.
In Tennessee, I think it'd be a really good spot for a team that wants to run the ball enough, and they could spell Derrick Henry as he's starting to get closer to 30 here.
Sure.
I think it'd be a really good compliment with his pass catching ability and how smooth he is with the outside zone. So, yeah, nice. What do you think of Rachaad White?
Yeah, I like Rachaad White as well. He runs into this muck that I have, and I've talked about it before of like, we'll talk about Brian Robinson Jr. He's in there, Damian Pierce, Kyron Williams, Tyler Beatty, like all of these guys that are in here.
Most of them but one.
That are, we'll talk about him.
Some guys offer more upside than others.
Some people just aren't as good at watching tape, and that's fine.
Yeah, we'll see.
Why has it got to be personal, man?
Just is. But I do like Rachaad White. I think the reason Rachaad White is appealing is he, we talked about even Kenneth Walker, as much as we are hoping that he can be a 3-down back, we just haven't seen the pass protection and the receiving. This is one of the few players that has the size, has the speed, has the stuff that you can do on first and second down.
3 boxes.
And
so 4 boxes.
Yeah, the third down stuff, the receiving ability is there as well. So I think that's the biggest appeal with Rachaad White is if the right scenario presented itself, he doesn't have to be taken off the field. The only real question mark would be the pass protection in that sense. But everywhere else, I think that's what I really liked was I have basically 6.5s or higher on everything except for pad level and pass protection. And that's it. So he's just a really solid all around player.
He's the kind of guy.
Age.
He's a little bit older.
What kind of guy?
He's kind of guy that like in like San Francisco and now in Miami,
Sure,
like that
sure.
kind of outside zone run scheme, like would really strive with how smooth he is that one cut and go.
Mm-hmm.
What anything we missed here, Jared, that you want to chime in on Rachaad White from Arizona State?
Not too much. Garrett and I are real similar on this guy. I mean, this is a guy that we're really similar on. No, he's my RB8 right now. I like that he offers a 3-down skill set possibly, so he's a nice dart throw maybe at the back end of a 3rd round of your rookie draft or early 4th round.
Yeah, it's going to be heavy there because these guys are, like you said, it's pretty crowded there.
It is.
And I think the NFL draft is going
Yeah.
to dictate my running back order because I have them right now. I just put them in tiers, like in my notes that I'm going to tweet out. Like I just have some of these guys in tiers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let the actual NFL draft dictate how that goes because there's a guy, there's guys in there like maybe like Isaiah Spiller where he is, possibly maybe if Dameon Pierce lands in a better situation, maybe he could jump him. Zamir White obviously is somebody who we like a lot. If he kind of show us he can catch passes, that'd be fantastic. But he offers some good upside, at least to a Nick Chubb, which offers that low end running back potential, but
Right.
still a low end running
a
back.
safe
potential
running back.
nonetheless. Correct.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to our next running back, and that's gonna be Jerome Ford, running back out of Cincinnati. 5'10.5", 210 pounds. He's gonna be 22 in 4 months when the season kicks off. He ran a 4.46 at the combine, 31-inch vertical, 118-inch broad jump. That's not too sweet. Had a year, 215 yards, 215 carries, 1,319 yards, and 19 touchdowns. Those 19 touchdowns tied a school record. 21 receptions for 220 yards and a touchdown. Spent his first couple seasons at Alabama, but he was stuck behind guys like Najee Harris, Damian Harris, George Harrison, all those Harrises. So now the pros of a guy,
Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson, wasn't Josh Jacobs there when he first?
Josh Jacobs would have been there when he
before
first got
left?
there. Yep.
Yeah. So Josh Jacobs was awesome.
It was really good
still
back.
awesome. Very undervalued dynasty running back. Pros of Jerome Ford from Cincinnati. He's a fast running back with good build. Showed that was able to break some tackles. Solid hands in the passing game. Caught a ton of balls away from his body, and he ran some solid routes. Very good lateral agility. Only 319 career carries, so he doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires. Some of the cons I saw on there.
He has a lot of tread on his tires remaining.
You're right. Not a lot of tread. Yeah, he's got a lot of tread remaining.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, Dad. Cons. Vision isn't all that great from what I saw from him.
I totally agree with that.
This is something like I went to Jerome Ford excited, and I came away less excited than I went into it.
Me
that way.
also.
So his vision isn't great. I saw him run into blockers multiple times, like he was Isaiah Correll. I swear, I was like, "Is this Isaiah Corell?" Like I saw him run into blockers multiple times.
I said his eyes don't take him to the best places all the time. He just
That word's better than me, competent than Isaiah Corell.
He just has inconsistent eyes. Like I feel like
Very inconsistent.
I feel like at times it looks like everything's developing perfect in front of him, and he hits the holes, and then other times I'm like, where the hell are you going, man?
That's what I said. Like right here, wouldn't see the holes quick enough.
Yeah.
As he was a good athlete, but not like that pure running back,
Sure.
right? Like he's just one of those guys that's really good enough to go to Alabama. But then when he gets there, you're like, oh, you're not
Trent
as good.
Richardson, dang it.
Yeah.
We're not as good as you thought you were. You know
He
what
has
I mean?
okay contact balance also, nothing to write home about.
Better outside than inside. Not overly elusive. So it's just somebody. He comes away as somebody that's just a pretty good athlete that got by on being really athletic, but just not a pure running back. So somebody who I thought was like, okay, this is gonna be a nice PPR upside running back. I came away very disappointed when it was all said and done. On a name that everybody kind of knows and was excited to talk about. I'm going to start up right now, and I saw Jerome Ford go a little higher than I liked. Like he went ahead of like Zamir White, he went ahead of Damian Pierce. I just didn't get it.
He was, I think, before I watched all the film on him, he was in that third tier, lumped in with 4 or 5 guys, and now he is no longer in that tier.
I moved him down to my tier below. Again, I have those first 3 guys in their own tiers, then tier 4. He's in tier 5 for me.
Right. So you just have an extra tier, but they're really the same players in my
Same group,
third
yeah.
tier that would be in your 4th tier, and now the 4th tier that is your 5th tier.
What dimension are we in?
And we're back. Anyway, yes, he dropped a tier for both of us. Just off the film study.
Is there anything else that you want to hit on?
Not really, man. I mean, I kind of talked through some of that while you were talking and collaborated. And
yeah, he's one of the fastest running backs in this class, and that's really what you have to hang your hat on. Is he could break a home run play at any time, but I just don't know that he showed enough on tape for a team to really give him a real opportunity. It's going to take an injury or 2 injuries for him to really get on the field, and it's just tough to rely on a player where it's either he has a 75-yard touchdown or he gets you 5 points that week, and that's the kind of player he is. So I'm more or less out, especially at the price that I've been seeing so far. As far as nerd score goes, I was with you guys. I wanted to have it a little higher, and I didn't even have as many negative remarks about his vision, so I want to go back and watch a little more because you guys might absolutely be right, and I just might not have picked up on that as much. But there was plenty of other negative notes that I was taking. So
that was the biggest one that popped out for me. I was like, wow, his vision's so bad.
Well, I'll have to go watch it all. I didn't have high scores for his vision, but it might even be worse than I originally realized. But he's in my bottom 8 guys here in the class. So I was underwhelmed with him. Good speed, catch the ball. There is a place for that, but I just don't know that he's going to be much more than 3rd running backs, maybe a backup running back on most teams.
There's a place for it. It'd be really good there. Honestly, that's where I'm not going to make the money. That's where he'd be really good. If he wants to be really good somewhere.
Do you watch the USFL?
What's that new league coming back?
I have no idea.
Is that
USFL?
USFL?
I think it's USFL.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I mean, have you seen some games? Are they
the LFL?
Hasn't started yet.
Okay. All right.
Just brought it back.
Is it April, right?
Yeah, it's going to be like
Gotcha.
NFL sub-league. So it's just very, and I'm with you. I think he's a name that's going to push some other guys down the list. So I want to thank Jerome Ford because I am not drafting him. If he gets drafted in the right spot, he's a 3rd round pick. But at that point, I'm grabbing some of these receivers. I think a 3rd round this year is going to be a really good mix for some of these tight ends, like guys like Cade Otton, somewhere along those guys that might get drafted, I think, a little higher than some people anticipate. So for me, I'm just shifting gears after a certain tier of running backs, and he's not in that tier, unfortunately.
I'm with you because if you're going to take those shots on those dart throw guys, you want to say, okay, does he fill a specific role really, really well for a team? Even if he's not a 3-down back, or does he fill a specific role really well for a team? And I just don't know that he does. I mean, you could argue maybe like a 3rd down running back kind of thing, but even his pass protection I thought was pretty underwhelming. So it would be tough to see if that would work. So I just don't know that he has that one area where this is how he wins consistently.
I said in his pass pro, I was like, he sticks his nose in there and he usually holds up. That's how I literally in my
there were a couple times where I just saw him get.
Yep.
I was like, oh man,
yep. Yep.
That was a train wreck, and he did not. He was not the train.
Nope.
Jared, final thoughts on running back Jerome Ford from Cincinnati.
He's outside my top 15 running backs. So
it's not good in this class.
No, I mean,
weak class.
It's pretty much almost off my board. Pretty much like Garrett, what you were saying. If an injury happens, I want to know if a guy can come and maybe take the job, kind of like Elijah Mitchell did last year. I'm looking for someone like that. And pretty much the only highlight in this guy's tape is his long speed. Doesn't break tackles, goes down pretty easy, doesn't make people miss. Little undersized for me, so there's just not much in here that I like. So no, he's pretty much off my board.
Okay. Next on the list here, we're going to talk about Ty Chandler, running back from North Carolina.
Before you do, though, let's talk about our friends at PredictionStrike.com.
Oh,
yeah, good idea.
How am I going to miss that?
I don't know, because they're
These
pretty
are guys
great.
you're going to buy pretty cheap on Prediction Strike, so why not get some info and tell them how they can make some money?
Spoiler alert, I kind of like Ty Chandler. Maybe I should take a look at him on PredictionStrike.com. But with that promo code Dynasty, you get a free share of a player with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's at Prediction Strike. It's where you go, you buy and you sell players just like you would the stock market. You can go there and you say this guy's really expensive and I have a lot of shares of him. I'm going to get rid of him and make a bunch of money off of it. Or, man, this guy's really, really cheap. I'm going to buy 100 shares of blank player. And sometimes that pays off, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the fun of this website. You can go to predictionstrike.com. You can go onto their beautiful app for iOS, and you can get those free shares with that promo code Dynasty with your first deposit of $20 or more, predictionstrike.com.
Yeah, get down there, get some rookies, get some good value. Because remember, this is the time to buy. Then you sell in season.
Right,
all
meow.
the money starts to come into play.
Meow.
Now,
Meow.
next running back we're going to play, I almost got me meowing. Ty Chandler, running back out of North Carolina, 5'11", 204 pounds. Ran a 4.3840, which is lovely. Had a 31-inch vertical, which is not lovely.
Not as lovely.
Not
121-inch broad jump. Started it. This is
pretty
Average.
good. Yeah, pretty good. Not
average.
great.
Almost.
I caught myself.
I know.
Started at Tennessee. Was there for 4 years with little production, to say the least. 421
Can I
carries.
just? Does anyone produce at Tennessee?
Peyton Manning.
Payne Man.
That's it. Right?
That's it.
Just no one else, right? Like
Women's basketball.
That's it.
I don't know. Like, there's not.
It's insane.
Yeah, and they always seem to get some like really good recruits as well.
Yeah.
and it just never pans
Never.
out.
When are they gonna get?
They're getting back on track. I like their new coach from UCF.
Okay,
All right.
So I think Hendon Hooker's going to put up some big numbers.
you
this
you
year
have
for
been a
them.
big Hooker fan.
I kind of always have like this, like I like Tennessee, like in the back of my head, and they're just never any good. And
Yeah,
it's just
it's like, oh, we won 7 games this year.
Lord, I've really been real stressed, down and out. So he started at Tennessee. Was there for 4 years. Like I said, little
Right.
production. 421 carries, 2,046 yards, 13 touchdowns, 58 receptions, 465 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns before he transferred to North Carolina for his breakout year, where he had 182 carries for 1,092 yards, 12 touchdowns, 15 catches, 216 yards, and touchdowns. Now, this is a guy that clearly has the speed to find the end zone anytime he's given any kind of daylight. Showed really good vision, finding the cutback lane often. Showed good patience behind the line and followed his blocks pretty well. He had really nice good jump cuts, showed some good bursts. Very solid in the passing game. His hand looked good from what I saw on film.
Just one of them?
With room to grow.
Just the one hand looked good. The other one, not so much.
this one's got room to grow. It's a tiny hand.
Yeah, it's kind of like Captain Hook. Returned some kicks, shows which shows why he's so good in the open field.
Yep.
Didn't fumble at all. I couldn't find any fumbles. I know there's only. I read a stat where there's only one player in the stat that had 0 fumbles, and it isn't him. But I couldn't find any fumbles on a stat line, so it's kind of weird.
That was Tyler Beatty.
Yeah, Beatty didn't have any.
No, there's somebody else on this list that we're going to talk about that have any fumbles. Maybe I'm just wrong.
Okay.
Maybe you're just wrong.
So the one thing, some of the things I didn't like about Ty Chandler was his power, right? He
Doesn't have any,
He didn't
yeah.
have any power at all. Not very powerful. Not going to be considered a physical player. Not going to be somebody you want to move the chains there. In the open field, I thought his elusiveness was average, but at the same time, like he had a speed that he didn't really have to be because he was moving.
He gets to the top gear quick. Yeah, he has very good burst and speed. That was that's his element. You know what I mean? That's how he wins. That's how he's gonna make his biggest impact anyway. And at 204 pounds, you'll want him to use that.
My number one con is he's going to turn 24 here in a month.
I was gonna say, why
Yeah.
they all-
Older running back.
why
You know
they
who
got-
else
why
is
they all gotta
24?
be old?
Yeah,
Ronald Jones is 24 right now.
Yeah, he
Wow.
turns 24 in a month. So when his first contract's up, he'll be 28.
Yep.
So he's literally like a one contract runner here, but he's got some good dynasty upside. And I'm gonna monitor where he lands. As in the right spot, he could be a running back too. He has that kind of potential. Most likely a career backup that will help when your starter goes down. That kind of running back, but he does offer as a number 2 running back upside in my eyes. Like he has the speed. He has the ability to get upfield. He has the jump cuts there to get behind the line of scrimmage. So I think there's upside there for a guy like Tyler Chandler. Again, at 24 years old, though, it kind of moves him down my rankings just a little bit.
Ty Chandler.
Just Ty.
Ty Chandler.
No
Sorry.
lure.
What did
It's
he
okay.
say, Tyler?
Tyler Chandler. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Tyson Chandler,
Man, it could be a
former Bulls center.
number of things.
That's what it was. Yeah, you're right.
What do you think, Garrett?
I'm actually a pretty big fan of Ty Chandler. There were a few running backs that were kind of
You just like that powder blue, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Sorry,
Like
go ahead.
UNC, baby. Michael Jordan. All right. But he was one that I liked his tape. And I actually even liked him back at Tennessee. I was one of the guys that I tended to have on a lot of my Devy squads and stuff like that. It was interesting. So his recruiting class coming out of high school was a really good class, like a really good class. He was ranked 5th. He was a 5-star recruit, 5th guy in the class. The 1, 2, and 4 players at the running back position, Najee Harris, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift. So he was the 5th guy. Now, Stephen Carr never panned out. He was the 3rd one in there. But then there were a lot of really good ones behind him, too. Eno Benjamin, who's now on an NFL roster. Brian Robinson, who we're about to talk about in a little bit here. Trey Sermon, who got drafted last year. Kylan Hill. And then even Travis Etienne. So this was like a very, very good running back class. So he has really good pedigree coming out. But, we talked about it before. It just never really materialized at Tennessee. Eric Gray was there as well, and they kind of cut into each other's time. And I thought Eric Gray was going to do more at Oklahoma, and he didn't really do much this year. But he was a guy I was just monitoring all year long. Then he had that game against Wake Forest where he scored 4 touchdowns. He was doing things in the receiving game, making some fantastic catches, like down the field catches, not just like swing routes, like down the field catches. And it really it intrigued me. But you're right. The one thing that I wasn't sure about was how powerful he is. But then I started to see him break some more tackles. And then we get to the Shrine Bowl. And he just looked like an absolute monster. All the reports were in practice that he played really well. You watch the Shrine Bowl game, and he's just breaking tackles left and right, long runs. Like
interesting, because I didn't see that. I mean, I saw a guy that was trying to beat a guy to a spot. You know what I mean? Like
right. And that is what he did a lot of it.
I'm gonna beat you over there. You're not gonna get there.
Right. It's almost like someone got in his ear. He got more training. He got better. I don't know what made UNC. I mean, maybe the coaches like that physical style, and so he got better with it as the season went on. I don't know, but I started to see that more in the later games than the early games.
I'll have to take a look again.
And the Shrine Bowl specifically was where it really was like. I remember Jared and I talking because we were nerdy watching the Shrine Bowl on a random Thursday night, and I was like, dude, is Ty Chandler really this good? Like, I've always liked him, but he looks fantastic tonight. And all the reports that were that week as well, that he was really good. So he is absolutely, I have like 3 guys that after like the beginning of the 3rd round, those are the running backs that I'm going to be taking. He's one of those 3 for me.
Yeah, I have an upper tier too. Like he's on the top of the list of that 4th tier. Like he's in that tier, those guys, and let's see where they land, how that shakes out, like where it's going to shake out, because he offers that dynasty upside.
He's in my 3rd tier also. He's one of the 4 or 5 guys that's in that 3rd tier.
Is he?
Yeah, we all have him.
Yeah.
I have him right, like literally decimal points behind Dameon Pierce and decimal points ahead of Rachaad White.
My biggest question was the physicality. So I'm
my biggest
very actually interested.
Yeah, go watch the Shrine Bowl and see what you think, because he showed a lot more there than he did.
Do they have that? Do they have that online? Because I know we don't have it in the film room.
They've got to have it somewhere. If not, I know they have it on YouTube TV. We'll be able to get it for you. If not,
I have Ty Chandler, Tyler Beatty, Dameon Pierce, Zamir White, and Rachaad White. That's my group of guys that I want.
Yeah.
Like in Dynasty rookie drafts. Like, so after those top 3 guys, those 5 guys are guys that I think offer that Dynasty upside where I'm willing to gamble on up at maybe in the back end of the 2nd round.
Sure.
In the right situation, how some of these receivers go. So, even ahead of guys like Brian Robinson, Pierre Strong, James Cook, James Ford, Zaquandre White, like those kind of guys, Kevin Harrison, who you guys like a lot. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys I want, and Ty Chandler falls into that tier with potential, again, the right spot to be my 4th overall running back in this rookie class. A weak class, but still my 4th overall running back.
Sure.
Nonetheless. Jared, anything you want to chime in here on Ty Chandler that we might have missed? Obviously, you watched the Shrine Bowl as well. How did you come away? Because Matt and our question was his physicalness.
Yeah, his physicality rating's pretty average for me. I think I graded him like a 5 and a 5.5, Garrett. So that's like acceptable, what we call in our grading system. So I don't think it's like anything that I'm worried about, because I think he is able to take contact, and I do see him breaking tackles and maintaining his balance every now and then, but it's not like that's what he's using to win.
Correct.
I think he uses his speed and his elusiveness more so to win, and that's how he should try to win. I think he would fit really well in like a zone scheme like the 49ers. I think that would be an absolute home run hit if he's able to back up Elijah Mitchell, and I'd be confident in playing him if Mitchell were to ever miss time, and we have seen Mitchell miss time. I love his speed and burst. Like I said, he's not just fast, he's quick too, make you miss. Jordan Reed put a really good tweet out yesterday because he came into a new school, a new team, and he was named team captain. And I think that speaks a lot for who he is as a player and a person. And he said scouts are going to value that very highly, and he'll probably be a prime day 3 target for a running back needy team.
And you know where I think he'd be a good fit as well? Arizona.
Yeah.
I think him and James Conner would off balance each other really, really well. James Conner being that goal line runner back in between the tackles. I think he has a speed.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
With Kyler Murray to get on the outside there for the outside zone. So I think that's a place where
replace Chase Edmonds. Yeah,
exactly. So if he goes to Arizona, Ty Chandler to me would be easily my running back 4, and depending on where Isaiah Spiller ends up, I mean that's opportunity, right? Because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for dynasty opportunity, and he fits that bill perfectly. So I think what I even feel more comfortable now with is that we sit down and all 4 of us feel the same way. So that fact alone moves Ty Chandler up my list as well. So I have that tier, and I'm interested to see where there's some guys we haven't talked about yet in this tier as well. We all kind of felt that way about Tyler Beatty. We all came away a little bit more happy, which made me feel good. And now Ty Chandler as well. So if your name begins with TY, things are looking good for you in this Dynasty rookie draft. So another running back that we like, another check mark to add to your rookie board to kind of bump up a little bit if you haven't. And of course, we encourage everybody, get in the Dynasty Nerds film room, use that promo code ROOKIE, and watch these guys for yourself.
See it for yourself.
Garrett said, hey, I might have missed a vision on Jerome Ford, so let me go back and watch a little bit more. It takes a lot of the process through this film to see what you went, because unless you have the stop button, you're going back over and over again. You're watching this game, and then you're watching another game. Take your notes, and then you're moving on.
Right.
So let's move on to our next guy. Let's be very sincere about this guy. Sincere McCormick, running back, Texas San Antonio, 5'8.5", 205 pounds, 4'6", 40, 33.5 inch vertical, 116 inch broad jump. Had 298 carries for 1,479 yards and 15 touchdowns, 22 receptions for 184 yards. Over 1,400 yards in back-to-back years for Sincere. Career, 36 games, 724 carries, 3,929 yards, and 34 touchdowns. Came away with 66 receptions, 509 yards, and a touchdown. So this guy obviously has very solid hands in the passing game. He can get it done there. Runs hard, can break those arm tackles, showed pretty good in pass protection. Looked better later in the games than early in the games what I saw. I was like, okay, this is a guy almost like Dameon Pierce, right? As the game moved on, he looked better than he did early in the game. Showed really good contact balance. Some of the cons here is obviously he's a smaller running back at 5'8.5", so his size isn't great. His vision wasn't the greatest. He danced a little bit too much behind the line of scrimmage for me. With a line where sometimes he would just lower his head a little bit too early and then go instead of waiting to let everything develop. He's okay, let's go, battering ram time. Speed was average. Gets what's blocked for him that was there. His yards after contact were among the worst in this class. He already has 800 career touches as well. So for me, Sincere, when I watch his tape, it's just kind of all right. If I'm being honest, I just don't see this translate into a fantasy football player.
I sincerely think we've spoken too much about this guy.
He's off my board.
Yep, me too. He's a guy that is good or below average at pretty much everything. There's nothing that stands out for him. Nothing. Not one aspect. I wrote he plays a little bit faster than his 40 time would indicate.
Okay. But he ran a 4.53 at his pro day.
Did he?
That makes more sense.
Yeah. But it's not like he's a blazer either. You know what I mean? No. 4.53 for a guy that's 5'9", 205 pounds. How is that ever gonna translate to a PPR or any sort of role in the NFL? And it doesn't, in my opinion. So I think we've talked enough.
Yeah, he ended up with my third lowest score out of all the running backs.
Oh wow!
So Tyler Goodson, Kennedy Brooks, and then Sincere McCormick. So
he beat Pierre Strong in mine. Now he's my second lowest.
You really don't like Pierre.
I didn't have Sincere scored yet.
Well, Matt came down on Pierre Strong when it's all said and done.
Did he?
Yeah.
I only have him 7th, so it's not like I was super high on Pierre Strong either. But yeah, the only decent marks I had for him were actually receiving in pass pro. So there's a chance that he could stick on with the team and try to get a third down receiving role. But that's a lot to hope for a subpar prospect at a subpar school.
Right.
There's just a lot of hurdles to jump through.
As far as catching the ball, I thought he was actually one of the best pass catchers. When I
gave him a 7.5 there. Yeah.
Just his fluidity in his hands. He was just catching balls that were behind him, turning real easily after making that catch and turning into a runner. Thought he did that really well, but he likes contact and he tried to initiate contact
but too much
for his size because he wasn't breaking tackles or pushing the pile. Yeah, so not a big fan.
It's my number one thing I have. Yes, I'm with you guys too, because the number one thing I have here is his hands in the passing game. That's his number one asset. So, Sincere McCormick, nobody's a fan. Moving down your board, he's if you have a 5 to 6 round rookie draft, that's where the gamble might come. He's a roster filler, just in hope, on a prayer and a wing. In this kind of class,
I'll try somewhere
I'll
else.
find someone else.
Try somewhere else, to be honest.
let's move on.
Yep.
Kevin Harris, running back, South Carolina, 5'10", 221 pounds. 40-yard dash, did not run it at the combine, but he did
I
it.
was gonna say, damn, I didn't see it. All right.
He and then he tried to run it at his pro day, and he pulled up like at 30 yards. He strained his hamstring.
But his vertical, very good. 30.5-inch vertical.
The reaction.
126-inch broad jump, so pretty good.
Yeah, those are good numbers, man.
And this guy,
Especially 221 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
so we watched. So obviously we're talking about Kevin Harris here, and then we're going to talk about
Zaquandre White.
Zaquandre White next. Both played at South Carolina,
Right.
and it wasn't until I got done watching Zaquandre that I had to go back and put this note, even with Kevin Harris. Man, that offensive line was doo-doo. I mean, I saw that center like hike balls past the quarterback.
Dude, their quarterback was a graduate assistant that just stepped in to play quarterback for him last year.
Wow.
Oh, really?
So basically,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
playing quarterback.
Yes.
Dude,
Awesome.
that-
And he actually didn't do too bad for that. But anyway,
for
go
how
ahead.
much, for how much
Good.
pressure
Yeah,
he
he
was
was
under
good.
and how many bad snaps he got, like I'm surprised he did anything at all, because that offensive, I'm just watching him, like at one point I had to stop him, like, cause I'm like, when I'm watching tape, I'm just focused on, these players, Kevin Harris and White. And I'm like, halfway through watching White's film, I go, wait a minute. How many times has this poor quarterback been like under distress for his life? And I'm like,
Balls going over his head.
Spencer
Yeah.
Rattler's their quarterback next year.
so I started watching a little bit more. I stopped watching and I started watching the O-line a little bit. I'm like, wow, these guys are terrible.
Lots
so,
of dropped snaps and stuff like that. I mean, it was bad.
Bad.
Over their head, under their feet.
Oh yeah,
also,
like
all over
dead
the
ball.
place.
He just the graduate assistant's laying on the ground, curled up. Please don't kill me. But going back to Kevin
I'm here for
Harris.
scholarship.
So this was a guy. If you want to watch him, it's not really fair to watch his 21 tape. You really want to go back and watch his 2020 tape, because he was limited some last year because he suffered a back injury at the end of 2020. He had actually to get back surgery. But if you go back to 2020, he was second in the SEC with 1,138 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns on 185 carries. So last year he had 152 carries, 660 yards for 4 touchdowns, 4.4 yards per carry, 11 catches for 89, because he was splitting time with Zaquandre White. Big power running back who uses his sides to create and punish. So he was able to break a ton of those high tackles. Good enough vision I had. Really solid contact balance, and only 1 career fumble. So he's very solid with the football. Some of the stuff I didn't like from him I saw was he didn't look like a natural pass catcher whatsoever. Had 8 drops on 49 targets. And this, to me, almost murders his dynasty value, because it's just, if you don't have that PPR volume, you're limited to begin with. So unless you're an elite talent, it's going to be hard to actually give me the production I need to help me get where I need to be, which is a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. So he's going to need volume, and most importantly, touchdowns at the next level. He wasn't really excited on his outside runs. I didn't get overly excited about. He's almost exclusively a north-south runner. Looked pretty poor in pass protection too for a guy his size. And he's not very elusive.
I wrote he kind of looked uninterested in pass protection. Like he just didn't want to stick his head in there. You know what I mean? Like it just.
Maybe because some of the back.
Maybe because he had 6 guys coming at him at the same time.
It
Like,
could also,
It was surprised me for somebody that was so physical.
Yeah, that's
to
what I'm
be
saying.
so poor
I came
at
away
pass
so
protection.
It's like that point in Game of Thrones where what's his face? He pulls out the sword and they're all charging at him. It's like, this is gonna be good, right? So what I'm really interested to hear is
I
because
have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, when Rob Stark, was it Rob? Was it Stark? When
Jon Snow?
Jon Snow. When
Jon
he had to
Snow.
go get Ariel, and they had or whatever, or no, his brother Bram, or not Bram.
Okay.
He pulled the sword, and the battle, or all surrounded. Yeah.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. I was like, there's so many scenes where people pull swords. I don't know.
Next week on Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones podcasting.
So what I'm interested in is, like, overall, I came away as a dynasty prospect, not overly enthused, but this is a guy that you, Garrett, and Jared said that you guys like. We'll get to Matt next. But tell me what you like, because I just didn't see it. Like, I didn't see, as a dynasty prospect, I came away liking the 2020 film. 2021, I'll give him some leeway because of the back surgery.
Sure.
But even some of the 2020 film, it's like from a dynasty NFL standpoint for those points, I didn't love what I saw, but you like them.
Yeah, I do. And I'm not quite as worried about the receiving as you are because they did still use him in that capacity. And I think some of those drops were more concentration drops than it looked like he was like fighting the football.
I was reading reports from the pro day and they said that he was like catching the ball extremely well. And that was like his like best part of his pro day.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
That makes sense to me because it didn't look unnatural for him. It just looked like sometimes he was overthinking it and like moving on to like trying to truck somebody. So I think that was part of it. So I'm not too concerned there. The reason I liked him is for somebody of his size, and he has some of the better contact balance and physicality in this class for me as far as the ratings go. He had very quick feet. He was very nimble, very choppy, very good at changing directions pretty quickly for a bigger back. And he kind of reminded me, and I don't think he's going to have a good...
Javonte?
A.J. Dillon?
Not quite.
Did
not
he remind
quite.
me of Javonte a little
You
bit?
did say that. You said he reminded you a little bit of Javonte. I saw a little bit of Jamal Lewis is what I saw when I was watching him play. That big upper body that don't grab him up high because it's just not going to happen for you.
I could see that. Now that you say that, I could see that.
Yeah, so he's not quite as big as Jamal was. I think Jamal was a little bit bigger than he was.
Jamal was so much faster than this guy. Give me a break.
I met Jamal Lewis one time.
I don't think Harris is that slow.
Massive.
I thought that was the big kind of question mark on him was his long speed. I think he's bursty in small
I don't
spaces.
have great. I have him like just a hair above average for game speed, so it was pretty average at that.
Jamal Lewis though was
he faster than that?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I misremember that part of his game because I was a little bit younger.
That dude can break some runs, man. He could dust people.
He was fast. And he was faster than Kevin Harris for sure.
Jamal Lewis.
Oh yeah, Jamal Lewis. Yeah, you don't get 2,000 yards on pure just big
for sure
boy ability.
But overall, I did walk away. I want him to be a little bit more patient.
There were times. I mean, the first 6 plays I was watching of one game, he ran into his offensive lineman twice. So I did have some questions about his vision. But he was big enough and powerful enough to keep moving. Also,
sure.
So it is one of those things where
and part of this too is. We see a lot of zone scheme. They weren't running zone schemes here. They were running a lot of man and a lot of gap schemes. And so I think that's where he's going to be best serves is because he doesn't have crazy long speed and he doesn't turn the corner super well. I think he is going to be better in more of the power schemes, these gap blocking schemes. Think of like Atlanta would be that way. Tennessee would be that way. I know we've fallen in love with the zone scheme, but I don't think that's the best case scenario for him. I think
New England, right? They're not.
Yeah, they do a lot of power, a lot of duo. Green Bay's been starting to do a lot of duo blocks. But yeah, I like Kevin Harris. He's just below. He's actually tied with Ty Chandler for me in this class. So I like Ty Chandler a little bit better. It's just kind of how they scored out. But he's just below a lot of those players I really like.
And I didn't watch any of the 2020 tape, so I'll have to go back and watch that because maybe there was a little
better.
Maybe there was a little something before the back injury that I'm missing because his explosion numbers there 38.5 and 126 in the
those
broad.
Are solid
those
for
are
big.
Yeah, those are very solid explosion numbers.
He was second in the class in his vertical and third in his broad jump.
Yeah, so I mean I think that translates to his short area burst that I see on tape, but. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe the 2020 will show me a little something that I didn't see in 2021.
His like burst score, which is it's just a score that's derived from like his broad jump and his vertical jump numbers, and then you take that with his weight that he has. It's 89th percentile. So
yeah, very very.
What do
solid.
you feel? What's your feel about him? Like from a dynasty prospect.
I mean, I think. Obviously, he has the size that you're looking for. I think he does do good in small spaces as far as lateral agility and explosion and stuff like that. But I do have questions about his speed and obviously the pass catching. It sounds like from all reports of the pro day that looked good. That was another question mark I had. And the pass pro this past year it was bad. So there are questions as to his PPR value in my brain as well.
So he's going to be somebody that can help better off on like a guy like if he goes like to his North Carolina brethren and help out like a guy like Michael Carter and just be his
is this guy like
a pace back there?
Is he a Jordan Howard type? it sounds like no, because Jordan Howard was terrible. Like that guy couldn't catch a cold. It sounds like he can actually do it and maybe be a little bit more involved than a Jordan Howard. So if he falls in a role where he's getting volume and he's getting worked on by the end zone and catching an occasional pass, he could find himself, some sort of value as far as fantasy football.
I do want to clear up one real quick thing, just as an overarching concept, because we talk about ranking these guys and putting them in a certain order, but let's still remember that this is a weaker class overall. Right. I think that there's going to be a lot of very good running backs that are backups in this class. Like there are a lot of very good RB2s, but I don't think we're going to see a ton of these guys, outside of Breece and Walker and Spiller. I don't know that we have any other starters. There'll probably be one or two that emerge from the pack
down the road, yeah.
But we're talking about if there's 32 starting running backs, they're running back 29.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not going to be elite level talents. Now maybe Zaquandre White might, but outside of that,
he has a potential.
I'm with you there. By the way,
this class is due,
and that's why he's been going up and up and up and up my board
just because of the ceiling.
Yeah, just because I see a ceiling that's crazy for him.
Right. But I just want to keep that in perspective with all of this as we break this down. These guys are good, but very, very few of them are great to the point where they could be a consistent starter.
Most of them
at the
are
next
third
level.
running backs on our depth chart, like that. And some of them aren't even backups. But this running back class is the South Carolina offensive line. You know what I mean? Like that's where they're at. It's just not very good. It's not a very good class. So, Breece Hall is a high level player, and then Kenneth Walker, someone who I love, that gives that running back one potential. But same thing. If you throw him in the mix of what's in the NFL now, where does he fall into the line? Like, do I want Kenneth Walker or J.K. Dobbins?
So perfect example: Kevin Harris or Moss from the Bills. Like who coming out of college? Who do you think was better?
Oh, I thought that Zach Moss was better coming out.
I thought Zach Moss was better coming out also.
I have a hair slight. I could go back and look. I'm pretty sure I had Moss at a 70 and this guy's at a 71. So I think I have him slightly better, but very similar
perspective.
Playing.
You know what I mean? Like
there's a lot of Zach Mosses in this
Garrett,
class.
you had Zach Moss at a 67, and then
I hated Zach Moss.
Kevin Harris is 71, which is what I have, and combined, he's much higher than Kevin Harris.
Right. And Zach Moss.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and I wasn't a big Zach Moss fan either.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michelle.
But I still saw more out of Zach Moss than I see out of him.
So that's for perspective. 71s in some of the other classes. Who do we have as 71s in some of the other classes?
Hold on, let me pull it up here.
Actually, I have you look up 2020. I'll look up 21 because
I'll talk about doo-doo running backs. So next on the
71. Let's see, Kylan Hill,
another running back from South Carolina.
we don't really have a lot of 71s.
I think this next guy offers a little bit upside.
There really isn't that many 71s except for from this class.
It was basically like you're either 72 and that's like
which is what we've been saying.
Good.
I mean, there's a lot of backups in this class.
Yeah, or you're in like the 60s, and then we have like a lot of 71s in this class. Which are like
I'm with you.
Fourth round picks.
When these two, you weren't here when these two came over. I'm like, they walked in the door. I was like, man, this running back class is terrible.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done.
Before we walked up to the door, he's like, "Who's your sleeper?" I was like, "Do I have to have one?"
Yeah. Because I was like, I like Kevin Harris. Right. I mean, I hadn't dug into his tape until preparing for the show.
I think we talked about those guys. Are like Tyler Beatty, Ty Chandler, Damian Pierce.
I have one more dart throw left. That's going to be in the Nerd Herd pod.
Okay, so. We're going to give you those guys when it's all said and done. So next guy on the list, let's get into him because it's getting late. We still got a couple guys to talk about here. Zaquandre White, running back, also South Carolina. Quan White, 6 foot, 206 pounds. He'll also be a little bit older when he gets into the NFL. He'll be 23 in 8 months. So didn't run the 40, didn't do anything at the combine. Still played behind that doo-doo offensive line. Actually played linebacker at Florida State before transferring to SC for his final 2 years. So he had limited tape. We only had 2 games in a film room. I had to dig a little bit deeper on him. But this was a guy who, yards after contact, decent size. He's made some really nice cuts and was able to stop on a dime. Really good jump cut.
Yeah, he has good suddenness and quickness, I think.
Yeah, well, he's like a wild card out there at running back. And watching him play, I'm like, oh, this guy isn't that bad. Like, I wish I had more tape on him. I actually came away somewhat enthused. only had 104 carries total in his whole career, only 30 targets, and he's older, and his pass protection needs a lot of work, which makes sense because he was a linebacker. So
I didn't even put anything in there.
yeah,
I was like, nope.
it needs a lot of work. He was very limited in the passing game from what I saw, but his hands were okay when he was used. They actually lined them up outside in the slot more times than I thought they would from reading his bio. I mean, there's one game, that Texas A&M game, where the ball was like right in his hands. He was like, whoop, right into the defensive back hands, and the defensive back went, score a touchdown. 7-7, guys.
He's real inconsistent. There's times when he looks like he's a linebacker still. And you know what I mean? Like he doesn't look like he knows exactly what he's doing out there all the time.
That's the best way to put it. There's times where he's out there, it's like, this guy can put it together, but he doesn't really know what he's doing yet.
Real raw.
He's extremely raw. You guys are 100% right. You hit the nail on the head there.
Cam Akers.
I have a ton of actual like 7s and 7.5s on like elusiveness and, tackle breaking. But then for vision, patience, and pass protection, 4.5s.
Oh, no patience. No patience.
Like very, very low scores on the technical aspects of being a running back. And that's going to be the thing. Technically, very unsound, but there's a lot of athletic ability. It's a project.
There's
and it's
something there.
The hard part is
if he gets on an NFL roster anywhere, he's going to be on special teams, and he's going to have to work his way up. That's the bottom line for a guy.
Exactly. Like and the hard part is, as an older prospect, you don't really want them to be a project.
Yeah.
You want a 20-year-old that's about to turn 21 or, something like that. So as a 23-year-old project, that's tough. But there's enough there that if you wanted him to be your dart throw guy, I understand it.
Right.
I don't think he'll be mine, but I understand it.
He's not in my very last tier of running backs. He's one tier above that as far as he at least has some bursts. He has some things that you can hang your hat on.
You saw enough on tape, and he's raw enough, and like that. There's potential there, like in the 4th, 5th round if you're a rookie draft. He's worth a dart throw on because of the fact that he is a running back. And
I would take a guy like this over Sincere, who I just don't see.
100%.
You know
absolutely.
Because he has a couple runs and a couple cuts where you watch him like, oh, wow, that was good. There's a couple times I rewinded the tape. I hit that back 15 seconds. I'm like, let me see that one again.
Senior Bowl guy, too. So
did he do good at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, he did pretty good. And the fact that he got an invite, I was talking to Garrett before this. I mean, that speaks something.
That does.
So
absolutely does.
He was, because that's the thing I like about him. He strung together a couple plays where I came away impressed. I'm like, that was a really good run for a linebacker.
Sure.
Because he doesn't have that many carries, and there's not a lot of tape on there. So when I was digging, I was like, oh, and the outcome was like, oh, he only had 104 carries. So I literally just saw 75% of his career in like 2 games. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot there. Jared, anything you want to chime in on here on Zaquandre White?
I have him graded pretty low. He's pretty much off my board. I don't think he's a guy that I'd want to take a shot on because there's plenty of others that are graded out higher than him that I'll probably ended up going around in the same area in a rookie draft. But we'll see how the NFL draft looks.
I want to see where he lands.
Yeah.
What kind of running back coach he has, what kind of system, and what he can learn there. Because you're right, he's a little bit older, but he has a potential for that hashtag 2-year window. Throughout the 3.
The part that's nice, and this is going to be similar to 2 running backs we're going to talk about in the next episode.
Let's go hashtag flash and pan. But
you were absolutely right, Matt, when you said he's going to be really good at special teams. And I think that is something that we need to keep in the back of our mind for some of this, because that is the difference between guys that get drafted in the 6th round and the guys that go undrafted. And even though you don't want to be like, oh, I drafted him on my fantasy team because he's good at special teams. Like, yes, you don't score points for those things. I think that's everyone knows that. But you're on the roster then. Right. You're in practice then. When injuries happen, you're the guy that's coming next up, not the guy off the street or off the practice squad.
Case in point, Dearness Johnson.
Yes.
Somebody who got drafted was really good at special teams, and that's how he kept his job. And then all of a sudden Nick Chubb goes down. All of a sudden Kareem Hunt is injured. And now he gave you 2 running back 1 games in 2021. So that's the opportunity that you can get where you're not starting Dearness Johnson, but you're also not cutting Dearness Johnson. He's going to send the bottom of your dynasty roster because when given the chance, he's going to give you high-end production. So, and then you're right, special teams is where, if you watch Hard Knocks, they tell you, hey, a lot of you guys, to make this football team, it's going to be on special teams.
Yes.
That's it. It's either you get drafted high and you're the number 2, or you play special teams. And if you can't do it there, then you're in trouble. And the fact that he can play special teams, he can tackle, he can play linebacker, that's going to help him out. So let's get into our last guy of this episode, Brian Robinson, running back, Alabama. 6 foot, 206 pounds. Another older running back. He'll be 23 and a half.
Brian Robinson, I got heavier than that.
Dude, did I write down
225
225. 225.
What'd you say?
6'2".
I said
225. Right.
yeah.
I probably just wrote it down wrong.
Yep.
Because he's the last guy I studied, and my notes could be off here.
I just want to make sure we get the right size on him. 206 and 225 is a big difference.
Ran a 4.53 at the combine, 30-inch vertical, 119-inch broad jump, which was really bad. Had 274 carries prior to his final year there at Alabama, then he had 271 for 1,343
Nailed
yards,
it.
14 touchdowns, 35 catches, 296 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Brian Robinson, big, strong, power back with good tackle breaking ability. Elusive for his size, has really quick feet. And his feet started to remind me of, okay, his size. Like, how does he compare to A.J. Dillon? Right? Like, because A.J. Dillon had really quick feet. Mm-hmm. That's all we really liked on his tape was his quick feet. And he was also mostly a north-south runner. And I look back, I was okay, A.J. Dillon, 6 foot, 247 pounds.
A lot bigger.
Also ran a 4.53, but 41-inch vertical, 131-inch broad jump. That's a big difference between the two.
Yep.
His hands were okay, but needs to work. He had a couple drops there in Alabama. 1-speed runner. His vision's okay, and sometimes it seems like he processed the game a little bit too slow for me behind the line of scrimmage. You think for a guy of his size, he'd have better yards after contact. He only averaged about 2.9. You think it'd be better than what it was. Combine kind of showed us with those numbers that he's not very explosive. Upright runner, just for an Alabama running back, how we've been so spoiled. Like, he's a poor man, Damian Harris.
He gets what's blocked. He's a guy that I'm sure New England would love to have him on his team somewhere. But he's the typical, like you're saying, big school guy, and then there's like that in between when you kind of missed a recruit or something like that, and he's good enough, but he's not good. This is pass. Brian Robinson pass.
He won you a national championship.
I'm a little higher, yeah.
Matt, I thought you were gonna like this guy.
No, I don't like him, man. Like,
Yeah,
he's like a placeholder for like a really good school. He's like that 1 year fill-in running back that you forget his name in 5 years.
I moved him down a whole
Super
tier.
early
like,
on
what
in
is
the
that
process. You were like, oh,
I know, I was, but the more I watched,
I think.
See, I ended up being
he's
the opposite.
old, 23,
I was out on him. Like, I wasn't interested in him at all. That's why it took me so long to get to him. But his tape impressed me more than I thought it was, and it was mostly because of his feet. I thought his feet were pretty impressive, and talking to some of the analytics guys, he actually had one of the for his elusive metrics, he was actually one of the best in this class.
It's his best asset for sure,
which is interesting for such a big back. So I do have a little bit of interest. It's not like I have him crazy high. I have him at 70.65, so it's not like I have a crazy high number on him, but I do kind of like him. I'm interested.
Is he in your third tier? Curiously,
he would be at the very, very top of the next one.
he's down at the next one.
That's
for
the
me.
garbage tier.
Yeah,
So
right.
He's in my garbage tier.
So
Right.
But he kind of could he end up being similar to a Ramondre Stevenson?
No.
Or somebody like that? I think he could. I think he could. I have similar
think he's
scores,
fast enough.
similar ratings. Ramondre wasn't that fast.
I don't know.
Ramondre had more suddenness, I think, to him and burst than I get a lot of meh.
I'm not
Brian
saying
Robinson.
he's special. 70 is not a
I
special
understand
score.
that
By
he just gets what's there.
Yeah.
On a really good, and he was on a really good football team. Now, granted, the offensive line this year is probably one of the more poor offensive lines Alabama
for
had
Bama, but it's still
in a long time. You know, what I mean?
Still Bama.
It's still Bama.
Yeah.
And this is a guy. I mean, he just got beat out by everybody that was before.
I would
He
be
never even sniffed the field. Really,
5 years from now, we're not going to know this guy's name. We're not going to remember.
I have a great memory.
We're not going to remember his name.
I mean, Brian Robinson.
No, we're not going to
Pretty
remember.
basic. Yeah. It's like a Jared Wackerly.
Tough to remember.
I have him at a 69.
Kirby McGurvey over there.
Nice.
What do you think? So Garrett likes him. Me and Matt don't
So
really
you guys
like
don't
him.
think he runs very physical?
Yeah, he does, but that's
Okay, I think that's his best attribute. And
Definitely.
100,
225 pounds. He's a physical guy.
how can
Yeah.
you not at 6 foot 225?
no, right.
Yeah.
I thought I heard you guys say he wasn't very.
But at the
physical,
NFL, that doesn't.
I
That
think,
means a lot less.
I disagree. I think being physical and being able to break tackles is big.
That's a different NFL level. They know how to tackle way better, big guys.
But he's doing it in the SEC. It would be different if he was doing that in like the WAC.
Yeah,
but in the
I
SEC,
think-
that's the closest we have to the.
It totally is.
I think
the
that'll
NFL.
transition well. And
I think I definitely look at that conference differently.
I do
mean,
too.
think you
But
should in
that's
your
how I got to my
evaluation.
conclusion. Like, okay, like some of these guys you watch it, like, it's like, oh, there's some upside. When you watch him play in SEC, you're like, this is what he is. Like, he's
Yeah.
just a jag. Like,
I'm
there's-
not banging the table for Brian Robinson.
No,
Trust
but
me.
I think he's going to be a good backup. I think he'll be a really solid number 2 for a team.
he's.
I think for an NFL prospect, he fits the mold for sure. But from a dynasty asset, I don't. That's what I'm looking at. I don't see that.
I think we're speaking the same
not an
things. I don't
asset.
think we're that far off. I
Okay.
put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
he's
just
like tier 5 for me, along with like 6 other.
where
backs.
people are hyping him
Sure.
per se, like hey, Brian Robbins, another Alabama running back. Like you could get
I
wrapped
think he's
up.
like RB11.
You can get wrapped up in that crap and overdraft a guy.
Sure.
No way, am I doing that? He's going to be a guy that is most likely going to be drafted by somebody else other than
for
me,
sure.
based off of name value of the school that he went to and
probably get
especially
drafted a lot
end of
higher.
the year type of production where
Sure.
that might be the last thing people thought
Yeah,
about.
the championship game
Trey
and all that.
Sermon?
Yeah.
204 yards against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I was the guy that was out on Trey.
right.
we all were out on Trey. We were like, oh, you guys are Ohio State homers. Then why were we all shitting on Trey Sermon?
Yeah.
No, and I'm with you, man. Brian Robinson falls in that perfect category. What I say all the time is this is a guy that's going to help an NFL team. He's not going to help your dynasty team. That's the kind of player he
And
is.
that's why I said New England will probably find a place for him because he was in Saban's offense forever, and
Sure.
he'll just slide right into
Slide
the
right
New
in
Eng-
perfect. He already knows the terminology.
Exactly.
Slide right in.
So that's it. That's our episode. And remember, if you want to watch all the film that we talked about and get your own opinion on these guys, which again, there's something we might miss that you might see that gives you a little bit bump, or something that you missed that we talked about you want to go see, get in the Dynasty Nerds film room. We have hundreds and hundreds of hours of tape in there, and get your eyes on it. Use that promo code ROOKIE, and then you can get 15% off any SKU we have. Play with the Dynasty GM. It's a good time to use the trade calculator, the league analyzer, to get ready for your draft, to see where your weaknesses are. Because maybe with the Dynasty GM, you'll say, hey, how am I going to dictate this draft, right? There's a lot of guys that are all meshed in these tiers. Where can I start leaning towards? The Dynasty GM will help dictate that and help you find that path to success. So get on DynastyNerds.com. Use that promo code ROOKIE because, again, you don't only get the Dynasty Nerds film room, but you get the next episode of the podcast we're going to talk about, and you get the Dynasty GM, which is, to me, the best tool out there in Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Tell them who we're covering in the next show.
Next show, we're going to cover Kyron Williams, running back out of Notre Dame, Tyler Algier out of BYU, Jarian Ely, running back out of Mississippi, Abram Smith out of Baylor, Devontae Price, Florida International, Max Borgi out of Washington State, that'll be quick, Hassan Haskins out of Michigan, another quick guy, and Zonovan Knight out of NC State. So we're going to dive into these guys. A couple guys I know Jared and Garrett like. Me, not so much, but I'll tell you why. Coming up. And make sure to check out Prize Picks. Get that free nerd shirt. Talk to you next week, Nerd Herd. We're talking about rookie wide receivers.
Adios.